And then how often are clients, or excuse me, what's usually the duration of time that they go through your program? Like, what is it? 3 months, 6 months?
We our initial program is 4 months long, but the goal is to get a client to work with us for a year. If you work with me for a year, you're going to be a different person, a better, well, let's say a better version of yourself after a year. You're going to be an improved version of yourself. And you're going to have, it's not just about the results, it's about the education. Because, Chase, I'm sure you know this with as long as you've been in the business too, you get setbacks. And what's more important is the results are important for sure, but knowing how to get back to a good place when life throws you a curveball, I would argue is more beneficial to clients long term. And if you give me a year, I can teach you how to do that. 4 months, I can give you results, but in a year, I can teach you how to do this on your own, and to where you won't ever have to join a coaching program again. You might want to join a coaching program. I think you should continue. Like, I'll never not work with a coach. I've got several coaches now who I work with, um, outside of health and fitness, actually. But I will always have a coach because I feel and perform better when I do versus not. Um, so that's what we. But I have clients who've also worked with me for 2 years. The woman I spoke about, she's been with me for nearly 2 years now.
That's awesome. Well, Taz, as we wrap this up here real quick, I wanted to touch. It sounds like that you accelerated your skills in jiu-jitsu pretty quickly, if I read that right. And sports skill development is something that I'm very intrigued about, and talent development, things like that. Looking back, hindsight 2020, what are some things that you feel like you did that was able to for you to accelerate and maybe learn the art a little bit faster than the millions of other people who are doing it as well?
This is such a great question because there's a revolution going on in jiu-jitsu right now about the way it's taught. Because and I'll share after this interview. I'll share with you maybe someone who you can have on the show. I forget the name of the podcast, but it's like sports skill acquisition. There's a revolution happening in learning, because the way you do jiu-jitsu, if you ever been to a jiu-jitsu class, the way it's taught is like, okay, well, here's this move. Okay, you get into this position. It's called the mount, and here's how to do an arm bar from the mount. Okay, let's drill that a few times. Your partner does it. Okay, now we're going to go spar. And then you never get to do that move that you did because you don't even know how to get to that position. You don't know how to do the arm. You can do the arm bar, but you can't even get to the position to do the arm bar. But after, because it takes around 8 to 12 years to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu. So that's why it takes so long. Guys are getting it in 4 years now. And again, they're training frequently, maybe daily. But so now what's happening, it's like, hey, listen, people need to understand concepts. They don't just learn moves and then slap hands and go, wrestle with each other. You need to break things down so that people can learn a skill, because that person who just learned the armbar from the mount position, that's when your opponent's laying down, and then you're over them, like that schoolboy position, schoolboy bully position where anyway. But like, by the way, I think martial arts, I'm just going to throw this out there, I think martial arts is overrated for actual fighting, but underrated for the mental benefits, right? And also the people that you meet. But to answer your question, I just spent a lot of time doing it. So I would train 3 times a week. I train 3 times in a day. So I put the time in, which I don't recommend doing. I recommend being smarter about it. However, if you do have the time, doing training once a day or a couple times a day, it's going to speed the skill acquisition up. I took private lessons. So instead of going to a group class and then being shown the armbar from the mount, which maybe I already know how to do, and that's like my thing, but I'm really not great at passing the guard or escaping side mount or these other situations in jiu-jitsu. I want to learn the things that I need to work on, right? What do I need to work on? And private lessons gave me that. I ended up winning several competitions at white belt because of that, because I wasn't very good at jiu-jitsu when I first started. And I was strong, and these skinny guys were beating me up. And I was just like, oh gosh, okay. And I was training martial arts at the time. It was like, how can these guys just do this to me and I can't stop it? And I know that I can lift more weight than them, and I'm pretty tough. Like, how is this happening? So anyway, yeah, what's the secret? And doing private lessons, that's helped. Also, I had a grappling dummy at my house where I would drill moves, which is everybody, this is very jujitsu specific, but I think it applies to other sports as well. You don't want to run drills. You want to go play football. You want to go play soccer. But the truth is, if you break down a soccer match or a football match, it's made up of these different components. For example, in football, there's catching the ball when the quarterback throws it. So instead of playing a game where sometimes you get thrown the ball, but most of the time you don't get thrown the ball, or, I'm not really, don't know that much about American football. But, just so bear with me if you're a huge fan and you're like, that's kind of not how it works. But instead of doing that, drill the catching so that you put the reps where you need to. And okay, now I catch the ball. I can catch the ball running left. I can catch the ball running right. I can catch the ball when one person's, covering me and two people covering me. So by breaking down a sport and realizing the different components and practicing those components, right? Because there's one big game happening, but there's all these mini games happening too. And so by practicing those and getting good at all those little games, it's going to up your entire skill set. So, so that's what I tried to eventually do. And I got my blue belt in 1 year of training, got my purple belt in another year of training, got my brown belt, I think either in a year or year and a half of training. But I've been stuck at brown belt level because of the injuries. So that's another story, of course. But that's what I would say. You have to understand the game. You have to understand the components, and you got to practice the specific components. You don't just go out and play and hope you're better.
Yeah. So extraordinary amount of reps, getting one-on-one time with coaches, and then breaking down into components. You're training your nervous system. I'm training at MMA at GoChet in Miami, and I had a conversation with the striking coach there today, and that's what he said. Like the concept really was for like practicing combinations and things like that. He's like, okay, that is one aspect, and you want to do that because you want to train your nervous system, and then the game gets different when you have someone across from you competing again, and that's where the IQ comes in. In terms of how to deal with he's big. One of the things that just really resonated with me when you were talking about like high level concepts. He's big with like the eyes. Just don't think about the combination. Like what are your eyes seeing from the guy across from you? So I love that. To wrap this up, Ted, real quick, I'd like to do some rapid fire with you. Biggest mentor or teacher that you've had in your life?
Biggest mentor or teacher that I've had in my life would have to be my dad.
And best book or research paper that you've read in the past year?
Best book I've read in the past year would be Buy Your Time Back by Dan Martell.
And then biggest habit that has added the most to your life that you've either added or taken away in the past year?
Going to bed as early as possible. So around 9, 9:30, 10 at the latest. I feel like a superhuman when all else being equal, I feel superhuman when I do that.
Yeah. I think this personal experience, same way here. And I think the science backs it up, but the more sleep that you get before midnight, I think that's where a disproportionate amount of deep sleep gets. So yeah, if I go to bed really early, even if I don't get the best night of sleep, I still feel pretty good the next day. Uh, awesome. Well, Rice, thank you so much for coming on Super Athlete Radio. Killed it like we knew you would. Best place for people to connect with you.
Best place is to go to legendarylifepodcast.com. That's where you'll find not only my podcast and articles, but you'll find our free masterclass. So if you're interested in my approach, whether you want to become a client or not, go to legendarylifepodcast.com and watch that free masterclass. And that will give you an idea of what the foundation is to get to that next level with your physique and with your health. The other place that I'm super active is on Twitter, or X now. So you can find me there at Ted_RYCE.
Awesome. Ted, thank you so much for coming on Super Athlete Radio. I look forward to meeting you in person, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Chase. Appreciate the opportunity.